All right. Hello guys. It's Bart Johnson here, and it is Saturday, March 9th, 2019, if you needed to know the year. It is 1 p.m. Eastern time, which means it's time for us to go live and hang out here on YouTube for a while. And I want to stress off the bat that it is March 9th, not April. And the reason that I want to stress that is because April 9th would be smack dab in the middle of NAB. NAB, of course, being where companies release all these new cameras and products and stuff, and we drew all over it, and it's really rough on our credit cards. But apparently Blackmagic Design did not get that memo, and they decided to give us some big news this week, releasing a new camera, the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro G2, and they've also done some updates to the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, and they've also removed something that seems like not really a big deal, but could potentially be a big deal, and that's CinemaDNG. But we're going to get into all of that today. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, and we're going to go through it. I, like many of you, probably saw the announcement from Grant Petty on Blackmagic of all this stuff, and had a lot of different thoughts, excited thoughts, worried thoughts, all of that. So we are, of course, live today. So if you are in here hanging out and joining us live, please feel free to comment in the chat. I see we already have somebody in here, and I can pull that chat right up on the screen here. As you can see, I was testing it earlier because it's been a while since I've streamed from up here. But go ahead, pop into the conversation here. Let me know what you guys are thinking about these new products and these new updates and this new loss of CinemaDNG, because we're going to go through it all. So, like I said, we do have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and actually dive right into this here. So let me pull up my screen here, make sure everything still works. Yes, it does. All right, so, oh, and I didn't even say hello. Of course, Sager, hello. You know, I pulled up the chat and didn't interact with it. See, it's been a while, guys. It's been, what is it, 2-3 weeks since I've been able to do a live stream, so I'm sort of easing back into it. I've been traveling a lot. So I see we've got Lasha in here, hello, and Mr. Sean Mark Nipper. Good to see you, man. It's been a while since I've been on here, and it's been a while since I've been able to do anything other than travel and work. But we got some cool stuff today, so let's take a look at what Blackmagic has brought to us. Andreas, hello. Welcome. Glad to see we got some people in here. So like I said, Blackmagic did this update earlier this week. I forget if it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. But anyway, Grant put out a video. It included a bunch of things. Some I don't really care about, you know, new cards, new decks. Not for me, obviously big for broadcast folks. But the ones I really want to look at is, of course, the Ursa Mini Pro G2, a new camera. Well, sort of a new camera. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K now has that Blackmagic RAW. So I'm not going to go super in-depth into what Blackmagic RAW is. I did a live show when Blackmagic RAW was first introduced, and we played around with some of the sample footage. There's a link to that in the description down below if you want to learn more about Blackmagic RAW itself. But we're going to talk about Blackmagic RAW being brought to the Pocket 4K, which is awesome. And I actually had a chance to shoot with a Pocket 4K. I haven't bought one, and I know they're like impossible to find, but a friend of mine had one, and I got to shoot with it 2 or 3 weeks ago in Houston, and I was pretty darn impressed, and it didn't even have this Blackmagic RAW update yet. So I have a feeling I'm going to be picking one of these cameras up. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at this Ursa Mini Pro G2 first. So let's get this up here. So the Ursa Mini Pro, obviously sort of their flagship camera, first came out when they had the Ursa Mini non-Pro, just the 4K and the 4.6K. I am an owner of the 4.6K, love the camera, it's fantastic. They then updated the camera really in sort of body only. The sensor and the guts were all the same, and they made the Ursa Mini Pro. It had a lot of additional buttons on the outside to control stuff without having to go through menus, and it also had it had internal ND filters, which is pretty cool. But otherwise, that 4.6K sensor and all of the processing and all the codecs and everything exactly the same as my Ursa Mini 4.6K. So I didn't make the leap. I really didn't feel the need to, but now they've given us this G2, Generation 2, I'm assuming, of the Ursa Mini Pro. So it's that same 4.6K sensor. Sensor has not changed from my 4.6K. So it's the same for the 4.6K, the original Pro G1, if you will, and now the Pro G2. So same sensor. But this time, it has upgraded internals in terms of the processing. So we've actually got some new stuff with this camera that it can do in terms of frame rates, which is pretty cool. So I'll leave a link to this down below for you guys to read through it, but we're just gonna burn through the key points here. You know, you've got that super 35mm size 4.6K sensor that we've known forever. It's got 15 stops of dynamic range, which is awesome. I love the sensor on these cameras. Up to 3200 ISO. So we're not getting dual ISO in this camera. They brought dual ISO to the Pocket Cinema Camera, which allows it to have 2 native ISOs, which means it can be better at higher ISOs because it has a higher native ISO and everything. It's sciencey stuff, but remember, this sensor is not new. So the sensor is the same. So no dual ISOs, unfortunately, guys, but you do have ISO up to 3200, which is cool. And here's the really cool thing. Record the full sensor 4.6K images up to 120 frames per second. That's awesome. So 120 frames per second in full 4.6K. That's cool. Windowed 4K DCI at up to 150 frames per second. And then windowed 1080. So at 1080, they're saying windowed because it's only using a smaller portion of the sensor. So it's only using a 1080p size of the sensor. So you will get a crop in, but this was the same with the 4.6K. But the 4.6K, you could go to, I think it was 120 frames per second only in 1080 and cropped. But now this one will do 300 frames per second in 1080. That's crazy cool. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So I'm getting corrected in the chat, and this is good. This is why I have you guys here to check me. So Andreas is saying it's not the same sensor. It's a new generation of Fairchild sensors. Interesting. So if it's a new sensor, but it's the same, it's 4.6K, it's got the color science of the Pro and everything, but what is new about it? You know, there doesn't seem to have any higher dynamic range, doesn't seem to have any higher ISO capabilities, and it doesn't have dual ISO. So I'd be interested to see, maybe it's just a little better performance, maybe it's a little bit cleaner at those ISOs as compared to the old sensor. But thank you for letting me know that. And yes, please do fact check me, guys, because I'm going through and learning all of this at the same time that you guys are. So let's see what we've got in the chat here. Okay, Andreas is saying the new generation of sensors is for those high frame rates. Gotcha. Okay, so performance-wise, in terms of image and color and all of that, it's essentially the same performance, but you're saying that it's a new sensor that can handle feeding that 300 frames per second to the computing side of the camera. And my buddy Aaron from New Legend Pictures in here. Which camera are we talking about currently? We're currently talking about the new Ursa Mini Pro G2. So good to know. Thank you, Andreas. That's awesome. He's saying you hope less fixed pattern noise. Yeah. So with a new sensor there, you know, hopefully, because it has the exact same specs, hopefully that means that it performs a little bit better at those specs. Because I will admit, my Ursa Mini 4.6K, it does have ISOs up to 1600. Does it go any higher than that? See, I don't even know how high it goes because I never like to go above 400 because it gets really noisy and it's got fixed pattern noise. But anyway. So you've got all this other stuff that it can do, the Generation 4 color science, lots of stuff in here that you guys can read. Still has those 2, 4, and 6 stop ND filters that we saw in the G1 Ursa Mini Pro. They're not officially calling it the G1, but it's just easier for me to call it the G1. These naming schemes are absolutely ridiculous with Blackmagic. So hang on, let me pull this back up so you guys can see what I'm seeing here. So yeah, we've got those ND filters with IR compensation, so stuff that we saw with the Pro G1. All these external buttons and stuff to control it, so it's not as menu driven as mine. Hey, look at that. Schneider Xenon full frame lens. I have those lenses. I just picked them up and I absolutely love them. Shooting with CFast 2.0 cards, so dual slots for that, and also dual SD card UHS 2 slots, so same as the Pro G1 there, but there is an addition that's pretty freaking cool. They've added the ability, like they did with the Pocket 4K, to over USB-C record to SSDs. So people have been buying up those Samsung T5 SSDs, and yeah, you can do that now with here. So you now have 3 different recording options in this camera. Obviously, it's going to depend on what format you're recording, what codec, and what frame rate and all that for, you know, how your media is going to perform. But you can do CFast, you can do SD, or you can now do SSDs. So that's pretty cool. And so yeah, this is all the stuff is here on their website, guys. You can go through and read in the full specs. But basically, they have upgraded the sort of processing performance and frame rates of this camera. So they've done this very interestingly. So if you look at their upgrade path, you know, we had the 4.6K. Then they made what was pretty much a cosmetic upgrade. You know, adding internal NDs, but mostly cosmetic in terms of the buttons and everything. And so just changing the body, not changing the guts for the Pro G1. Now they've gone ahead and updated the guts and made it the Pro G2. So really sort of baby steps, you know, incremental going through, but this camera does look really great. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick this one up. It does feel like my 4.6K is kind of being left in the dust. They haven't had any firmware updates for it. They have no pathway that they've told me to bring updates to it in terms of the Generation 4 color science or Blackmagic RAW, which of course this camera will do Blackmagic RAW. So it sort of seems like my 4.6K original is kind of being left in the dust. I'm kind of not happy about that. But I mean, yeah, progress is progress. I knew cameras were going to get better. I was just hoping that that mine would sort of be left a little bit, would stick around for a little bit longer. Still a fantastic camera. I'm just being picky that other people get stuff. Why can't I? So I might have to pick the camera up. Let's see what we got here. Viom Pictures is saying, or Viom Pictures is saying, it has a faster readout speed and less rolling shutter. Okay, so faster performance of that sensor, faster computing, yeah, is going to help with stuff like rolling shutter, because it's going to be able to pull that data off of the sensor faster, which is what causes our jello effect with rolling shutter. So that's really cool. We should see improved performance in that. And at NAB, I will be at the Blackmagic press conference. They have invited me to that, and I also have time at the show where I'm going to be able to go back behind their booth and actually get hands-on with this, hopefully, and check it out. I won't be able to like record anything or anything like that, but it'll be nice to get hands-on with the camera and kind of see what it's like, and I might make a decision on it after that. But that'll be cool. But let's see here. We've got a lot of activity going on in the chat. That's awesome. Is there any reason it's still a 12-bit camera? I'm a little surprised they haven't moved to 14-bit or 16-bit architecture now. This is their flagship camera. Trevor, I don't know. That is something that I can ask them when I'm at NAB, but I haven't seen anything in terms of them saying why it's still 12-bit. I don't know. New Legend Pictures is asking, is there a price yet for the G2? Yes, indeed. There is. I believe it's $6,000. So let me... Where is it? Yes. Here you go. So we are talking, if you see right here, it is available now, it says, from resellers worldwide for $5,995 US. So I believe that was the same price as the Pro G1 when it came out. Is the Pro G1 going to get a price reduction? I don't know, seems like it kind of should, but you're looking at $6,000 for this camera, and of course there's all the stuff that goes with it in terms of you need batteries, you need you need V-mount batteries, you need media, but now you have the option for that SSD or just SD card media, so that can be much more affordable than CFast cards. I invested in CFast cards because that's all my 4.6K original takes. But yeah, so the barrier to entry for what this camera can do is actually pretty low, which has been the case with pretty much all of their cameras. That's sort of what they do. A lot going in the chat, so I'm going to real quick try and get caught up here. Aaron says, I've actually just been reusing SSDs for my Atomos Ninja Flame and bought a USB-C to SATA adapter for your Pocket. Yeah, so you can do that. You don't have to use the built-in portable SSDs. You can use any SSD solution. So yeah, if you use a SATA to USB-C adapter, yeah, you can connect it to it and it works. So that's a good idea. That's a good way to do that. We addressed the price. Okay, VM Pictures is getting towards one of our things that we're going to be talking about in a little bit, saying CinemaDNG is lossless, but Blackmagic RAW is lossy. So there's a lot of stuff out there about Blackmagic RAW, how it works, whether it's truly RAW or it's not. Like I said, I'm not going to dive into the details of how Blackmagic RAW works, or at least how it's been explained to work. I've never shot with it. But there is a link in the video description down below to a previous video that I did that sort of looks into Blackmagic RAW and what it promises to provide and sort of how it works. It was a live show that I did right after Blackmagic RAW was announced, and I was and still am pretty excited about it. So let's see here. Noir et Blanc V. Hey Bart, long time no see. You're a 4.6K owner as well. You're not happy either. Can you ask them about the 4.6K at their conference? Yeah, so I already have talked to my rep a little bit, asked her some questions. You know, I was like, is there maybe an upgrade path and maybe a discount for loyal 4.6K owners who pre-ordered it when it was first announced and waited a year for it, and then it arrived and then we're still using it and loving it, but they don't have anything in place right now. You know, I was kind of just toying and poking them about that, but I will ask them again when I am at the show and be like, yo, I know I can't be the only one who's a little disappointed and feels a little bit left in the dust, that my camera platform seems to have been kind of abandoned. I mean, you expect with upgrades in technology and everything that this is going to happen, but I would like to see them act like some other camera companies, and, you know, take care of their users a little bit. I'm not knocking Blackmagic at all, not knocking them. I'm just saying this would make me very happy, but I haven't heard anything yet. Trevor says the G2 will make the Ursa Mini Pro even more of a bargain, dollar for dollar. It's already an amazing offering. Yeah, especially if it gets a price reduction. Yeah, that's a no-brainer if you want to save a little bit of money. So. But I haven't seen if there has been a price reduction yet. Lee Brandt is saying the 4.6 sensor reported 15 stops of dynamic range is overstated. It's actually 14, which is still great. Yeah, you know, there's a whole thing with like how manufacturers measure their dynamic range, and there's no real standard for how they have to do it. They can kind of say what they want. Obviously, if they say something completely outlandish that's nowhere near, we're going to know. But in terms of accurately really measuring it, sometimes they round up. But you're right, 14 stops, if that is truly what it is still amazing. I mean, I know I've shot some stuff that is just absolutely incredible in terms of saving the highlights while shooting shadows. Like, the dynamic range is absolutely incredible, and I've been able to pull stuff back and recover it and balance stuff with my 4.6K. It just blows my mind. Like shooting an interview outside in the shade, but like it's a bright sunny day, and I'm still able to have the person properly exposed but still have all the clouds and all the details in the bright sky is still not blown out. It's just awesome. Let's see here. Andreas is saying there are double slot SSD solutions for the Mini Pro. Yeah, so they did come up with an attachment that goes on the back that you can insert SSDs into to record straight to it. It's just nice that they've added the capability now to over USB-C run, so you don't need that huge adapter unit onto the back. And yeah, because CFast cards are basically little SSDs already with their speeds and everything. So yeah, there are solutions for that, but the fact that they've enabled this over USB-C for this is pretty awesome. Andreas is saying, I don't think there will be an update. Let's see here. New Legend Pictures. One of the downsides so far about Blackmagic RAW is that it's still not native to Premiere. Oh, believe me, I'm going to get into that towards the end of this video for sure. Although I like Resolve better, I'm used to Premiere workflow and keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, I'm the same. Would you go for the soon discounted G1 or G2 personally? Say the G1 drops to 5K or 4,500. Would you sell your 4.6K, or does it still seem not worth the version, blah, blah, blah? So, okay, what I would do, I would go for the top of the line. I'd go for the G2. And here's why, because I'm already falling into a boat where now I'm 2 cameras behind. So it seems to not be getting updated. So I don't want to put myself in a position to already be 1 step behind. I would want the higher frame rates. I would want all the capabilities of this G2. So I would get the G2. I don't know that I would sell my 4.6K because I don't think I could get very much for it being, you know, old. Older. I mean, it's still a perfect, awesome camera. I use it as my A camera all the time, so I might just keep it and have 2. So I could do a 2 camera setup with that and run that, and the G2 could be my specialty camera for high frame rate stuff. I don't particularly have a need for that, so this is really sort of just a gear lust kind of thing right now, me entertaining the idea of buying this camera. You know, but we'll see. We'll see. But that's the way that I would go. Trevor says, dynamic range also depends on what you choose as an acceptable SNR ratio. One tester will say it's 14, another will say it's 15. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that. Blackmagic Tim, good to see you, man. Just jumped in. Let's see what's going on. Blackmagic Tim is the kind gentleman who let me use his Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and is completely guilty and responsible for my decision to probably purchase that camera. So thanks, Tim. Thanks. Actually, really thanks. It was a huge help. And Tim is also in the same boat as me. Tim is also a 4.6K owner who's kind of watching Blackmagic leave us behind. But let's see here. Andreas is saying, for me, the main question is if the G2 is able to shoot low light at ISO 800, then it's a no-brainer for me. Yeah, so performance remains to be seen. Sample footage remains to be seen. I'm happy with my 4.6K, so I figure it's going to be an upgrade on top of that no matter what. So I think it'll be pretty good, but we haven't seen anything yet, so I'm hoping to see some stuff. But it looks like a really good camera. But anyway, we've got a bunch more to go through. Let's keep the conversations going here, but I'm going to move on to our next one. We can, of course, keep talking about the G2 and all that because conversation is where it's at. But here we go. So we're going to leave this guy behind. That's our G2. And now we're going to talk about this Pocket Cinema Camera 4K getting Blackmagic RAW. So, like I said, I'm not going to go into the details about how Blackmagic RAW works, whether it is actually RAW, it's not uncompressed, so it is lossy, it's not lossless. That's where CinemaDNG comes in, but that's something else that we're going to talk about in a second. But anyway, the sum of the story is there's been an update in the firmware to the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K that adds a whole bunch of things. One of my favorites is actually the double tap to zoom, because I did keep doing that and missed that function when I was using it, because that's how it works on the Ursa Minis, and I really like that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. They have added Blackmagic RAW as a codec to this Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, which enables you to shoot in Blackmagic RAW, and save on file size and all sorts of stuff. So this is a huge deal that this has been brought to this camera. That is amazing. I know a lot of people are excited about it, but there is a caveat, my friends. And this is something I wanted to talk about. Maybe my title is a little clickbaity with the controversy, but I think this is kind of an interesting move and could help some people and hurt some people. But as you can see, look at our menu here now. Our options are ProRes or Blackmagic RAW. CinemaDNG is not there. CinemaDNG is the format that they have been using for recording RAW and compressed RAW in all of their cameras that do RAW. So my Blackmagic 4.6K, it does CinemaDNG. It can do lossless, or it can do a few ratios of compressed RAW. And it's been the same way with the Ursa Mini Pro, and it was the same way with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K as well. Now, they have removed CinemaDNG from not only the Pocket 4K, but it is being removed from the Ursa Mini Pro G1 and G2. And I haven't heard anything yet, but I fear that it may also be removed from my camera, the 4.6K. And they have not at any point said that they plan on bringing Blackmagic RAW to the Ursa Mini 4.6K. Now, that means that if they don't give me Blackmagic RAW, and if they do put out a firmware update that takes away CinemaDNG, it means that my Blackmagic 4.6K, my Ursa Mini 4.6K, no longer does RAW in any format. It makes it a ProRes camera. And one of the huge selling features, or selling points of that camera was RAW. I may not use it all the time. I really rarely use it, but you know what? I bought a camera that can do RAW, and now you're gonna take RAW away from me. That I don't like. Now, they haven't said that they're taking it away from the 4.6K, but I have a feeling that it might happen. And of course, I have the option to never update my firmware ever again and keep it where it is right now. But this concerns me a lot. And I want to share with you guys a little portion of the video where Grant addresses this removal and why this is kind of happening. So there's some legal stuff in here, and Grant does a fantastic job of addressing it. I want to pull up the video. Blackmagic, Grant, please don't flag me for demonetization or copyright strike for this. I just think you really eloquently explained this, and I want to share this with all of you right now. So let's get this blown up. This is in their address. You can find this video. I'll have a link to it down below if you want to watch the full thing. I'm going to put my headphones on so that I can hear it with you guys, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so here we go.
One other thing we've done, which is a bit of a negative, I guess, is that we've removed the DNG format that's in the camera. Now, we've had a patent claim. Someone's complaining that the DNG format we're using is infringing their patent. Now, we didn't invent the DNG format, so we don't really know a lot of the details about it. It's a bit hard to analyze the patents in some ways because of this. So it's a bit costly and expensive to analyze those claims. And we know Blackmagic RAW really well. We've done a lot of research on Blackmagic RAW. And Blackmagic RAW is a much better format. So what we've decided to do is remove the DNG format from the camera, and we're replacing it with Blackmagic RAW. It's not really something that we wanted to do, but we feel like it's not worth the effort to put all that investment in analyzing and sort of heavily checking out and spending a lot of money on a DNG format that's essentially obsolete.
Legal.
We're also removing the GNG format from Ursa Mini Pro as well.
See?
DNG is really essentially an obsolete format now. It's a stills-based format, so it's hard to play the clips. The colorimetry is often wrong because it doesn't really manage all that stuff. It's not really very well supported by applications.
Little bit of justifying here.
But it's not really well supported. The compression performance is not really very good either. If you get more than 4:1, it starts looking really bad. And because it's individual still frames, the copying is really slow. So
anyway,
and then also, of course, it does. It's not very good It's not a very high performance.
Okay, so he goes on here a little bit and sort of justifies also that, yeah, they didn't want to make this leap necessarily, but now that it's been done, he does feel that it's a good idea. So Yeah, he's sort of justifying the fact that, their hand was not necessarily forced, but the fact that there were these legal and patent issues regarding CinemaDNG. And so instead of putting all this money into legal and research and finding out what they need to do and who actually has the rights to this and what's going on, they just decided to say, you know what, we're going to get rid of it. We have Blackmagic RAW. It's great. We're confident in it. We're going to put that in here. But it does mean that anyone who has a CinemaDNG workflow, he's saying that it's obsolete, but there are a lot of people who have been using it for a long time and are now going to lose that. The other thing to be a little concerned about is that Blackmagic RAW right now, you can only work with it in Resolve. Now, they have an SDK out there. This is one of the things that I really, really loved about Blackmagic RAW. They have made the SDK for working with Blackmagic RAW free and out there for anyone. So that means Apple can pick it up. That means Adobe can pick it up, and they can implement it into their software without paying licenses, without any of that stuff. They put it out there and they said, go ahead. So Blackmagic are the only ones who can record to Blackmagic RAW, but they have made it open and available to be implemented in any editing system that decides to pick up the SDK and implement it. Now, as of right now, nobody has. So right now, as of this date, Blackmagic cameras are going to only be shooting Blackmagic RAW, and Blackmagic RAW can only be edited in DaVinci Resolve. Not their fault that this hasn't been implemented in other editing platforms, because it's out there. They've made it available. It's not their fault that, it's not their job to go and add this to other people's software. They have done their part. But right now, at the current time, that means that if you are shooting Blackmagic RAW, you have to edit in DaVinci Resolve. Now, of course, they give you DaVinci Resolve when you buy a camera, which is awesome. They're doing everything right. But, some of you may be stubborn like me and just haven't dragged yourself over there. Or like my friend Aaron was saying in the chat, you might not be as fast with that. It's not a workflow that you're comfortable with. It's a big change. Like I've been Adobe Premiere for probably like 20 years now. It's crazy. And yeah, I need to, I guess, learn Resolve, but I would really like it to come to Premiere. But let's talk just real quick. I see tons and tons of chat coming through. So do me a favor, guys. I love that you're having awesome conversations in the chat, which is the best part of live. See this right down here. If you do have a question specifically for me, because there's so much going on, just do that little @Bart Johnson Productions before it, and it'll pop up on my screen in orange so that I know you're trying to get my attention, and I will pop in there and address that. But I want to talk about, this is kind of rumor stuff because there's nothing official. I'm not a big fan of rumor stuff, but we're going to talk about maybe why this is kind of happening. He mentioned that there was a patent issue. And the patent issue, a lot of people are thinking has been issued, not necessarily directly to Blackmagic. It's not like somebody came to them and said, hey, you can't do this. But on that format as a whole, there's a certain patent issue going on. And the leading suspicion is that it's red. And I want to show you guys a few reasons why people are thinking that it's red, because this has happened before. So I'm going to show you guys an article here. There's a link to it down in the description below. It is from 2013, but I want you guys to see this. So, Red CEO speaks about their lawsuit against Sony regarding RAW compression. So in 2013, or maybe in 2012, because this was from early 2013, Red filed a lawsuit against Sony talking about compressing RAW. Basically, Red is saying that they have patented the idea of taking a RAW format and compressing it. They're not saying that they own CinemaDNG, but they're saying that the concept of compressing a RAW format is sort of their patent. there's documents in here if you want to see all the legal documents and the patent stuff, so you can really go in depth there. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to go through all this. Even Blackmagic didn't want to go through all this. They didn't want to spend the money on the legal stuff to go through this. So here we go. I just want to show you, there's the patents on here. You guys can check this out on your own time, but there's something down here, quote, from the CEO that I want to hear. So it said, "This is a red code RAW issue, one that many have acknowledged for years as a core invention of Red and incredibly important to what we are doing. Red code RAW is not rounded corners. It is fundamental to recording high-resolution images on cameras to small media. It's brilliant, and it is no surprise that others have finally figured out, several years later, that the only way to get where they need to go is through this path. Hindsight is spectacularly clear." That's quite a statement, but basically what's happening is that is referring to taking a raw image and compressing it to record it in a smaller size, and onto smaller media. Red is, or did say back in 2013, that is their patent, and so they went after Sony for it, for doing some compression of raw formats. Now there's another instance, because of course compressed raw formats are really bread and butter these days. We're seeing more and more of them, and different companies are coming out with their different versions of them, and we're going to see more because that's what we want. We want raw, but we want it to fit on a freaking SD card. And it's actually becoming possible. But anyway, let's take a look at this here. This is a more recent article. Again, there is a link in the description down below. And this is talking about Atomos and Red. Because as you know, Atomos, their recorders can record raw and compressed raw from various different cameras, like Sony's, like Canon's, like Arri, I believe. So what Atomos decided to do, so Sony fought them. Blackmagic said, forget it. We're just not going to use this. And Atomos went a different way. And this is recent. This was published on January 24th, 2019. Atomos agrees to partner with Red instead of getting into court due to infringements of Red's patents. So this, again, has happened again. So what happens was Atomos went the route of saying, okay, we will accept that you have the patents on this stuff, and instead of fighting it, we're gonna work with you. So Atomos and Red have partnered. So this is an agreement between them so that Atomos doesn't have to worry about any patent battles and stuff like that, but can still implement their compressed raw formats. And so you can read through this whole article, but I just think it's really interesting that there's several instances of this patent, presumably held by Red, and that it is popping up, and that we may not have seen this in the spotlight as much, but they have been going after and some codecs, and have been going after some companies. Sony is one. Atomos, whether they had an issue up front, but Atomos decided to accept it and go with it and partner, which is awesome. But Blackmagic went the route of saying, you know what, we don't need it. And so they just kind of steered clear of it. So this is a really interesting thing, and this is the controversy thing. Again, there are no articles that I have seen yet saying specifically that, hey, this Blackmagic removal is because of Red. I'm not saying that, so don't put that out there. What I'm saying is they said that there is a patent issue on that compressed raw codec, CinemaDNG, and I have found evidence of Red having some issues with other companies regarding that, all the way as recent as January of 2019. So I'm sort of putting two and two together. A lot of people are sort of putting two and two together. But like I said, this is not 100%. There is no article. There's no statement from Red. There's no statement from Blackmagic. Blackmagic, Grant did a very eloquent job of stating that, you know, there's a patent issue. We didn't want to deal with it. We didn't want to look into it, and we don't need it. We have Blackmagic RAW, which we are fully behind and we think is awesome. So there's the controversy stuff. It's interesting. But like I said, this removal, it's good and bad. Because while CinemaDNG may have been an old format and it's a pain in the butt to work with, the fact of the matter is, if you did work with it and worked with it a lot, you have a workflow for that, which is now going to be gone. At least if you're recording with Blackmagic cameras. So that goes out the window. And as of right now, your only option is Blackmagic RAW, which, like people are saying, is technically a compressed RAW. It's not fully lossless. And your only editing for that right now is DaVinci Resolve. Not Blackmagic's fault. That SDK is out there. They're not trying to force everyone into their software. They would like that very much, but they have put the tools out there for people to implement it into other things. It just hasn't happened yet. But this disrupts stuff for people who use CinemaDNG RAW. Now, I don't use CinemaDNG RAW. I don't use it often enough to be really upset about this. But what does upset me about this is the removal of CinemaDNG from their cameras. So they have said, you know, the Pocket 4K, it's gone. The Ursa Mini Pro and G1 and G2. G2, I'm sure, is shipping without it. G1, if you install any firmware updates from here on out, it's going to remove that codec. And my suspicion is that that might happen to my 4.6K as well. And they have not said that they have any plans to bring Blackmagic RAW to the 4.6K, which means that they would completely strip RAW capabilities in any way, shape, or form from my camera. And I don't like that. Again, this is nothing that's been set in stone, but this is just something that I'm fearing happening because it seems like these could be the next steps and the next things to happen. How far back will they go with stripping CinemaDNG from their cameras? I don't know. I mean, are they going to go back to the old you know, trapezoid cameras and remove it from them? I don't know. Those are discontinued products, so maybe they just say, you know, they are of the past. That's what it is. But my 4.6K is sort of teetering right at the line, and that concerns me. In fact, one of the things that does concern me is that, where was it? I saw a photo. So I see you guys have been having an awesome conversation in the chat. I love that. Where is it? There was something that I saw. Oh, come on. Where is it? It's under products. Sorry, I'm trying to find something here, guys. I saw something that really okay, so let's take a look at this. So we're back to the G2 here. So yeah, here's the G2. We talked about this up front. This is what concerns me. They are advertising this as 3 incredible models. Choose Ursa Mini 4K. I guess they're still planning to support the 4K sensor version. Ursa Mini 4.6K. There's mine. Or Ursa Mini Pro 4.6K G2. So they are presenting this as their current lineup, right? So that makes me worried that they are going to strip it from each of those cameras. Yeah, that's why I'm concerned. I wouldn't be concerned if like my 4.6K was now considered a discontinued camera. You know, I wouldn't think that they'd then bother going back and stripping CinemaDNG from it. But the way this looks, they're calling it an active part of their lineup. And I fear that a firmware update will come that will strip it from it, and they won't give me Blackmagic RAW, and my camera won't have RAW. Won't even have the option. So maybe I'm being conspiracy theorist and paranoid, but it's just a little upsetting. And I don't really hold Blackmagic responsible for this. They're making the right moves. They're upgrading cameras. They're going forward with their codec. I'm just being picky about something that I bought a few years ago. So, you know, it may all be moot because I may just pick up the G2 and there, whatever. I'm just being a curmudgeon about this, I guess. So let's take a look at our chat here. Let me know if you guys have any questions or anything that I didn't touch on here. I know we had a ton of information. There's that, you know, the controversy stuff, the update to the Pocket, the future of Blackmagic RAW and no CinemaDNG, and then of course a new physical release of a camera, the 4.6K G2. Aaron's saying there's a plugin for Premiere that lets you use Blackmagic RAW and it's only like $29. Aaron, what is that plugin? Let's see here. Or if you know how to make plugins, you could probably take the SDK and make your own plugin. You know, I was actually thinking about that. I was like, I might learn some coding and figure out how to do this and just implement Blackmagic RAW in Adobe myself. But I don't know how I think I have the time to learn to code something like that. That's ridiculous. But it'd be cool, you know, if anybody out there is much smarter than me, in terms of that kind of stuff and has the time, the community would love you if you could do that. And then who knows, that might even light a little fire under Adobe to be like, oh, maybe we should make our own. Again, I'm being stubborn. I'm like, I like my camera. I like my editing software. I want everything new to work on all of my stuff. That's what I'm doing right now. So, let's see here. Going through, getting controversial. Yeah, Aaron, if you are still in here and you can tell me what that plugin is, that would be amazing because that would make a huge difference. Let me go ahead. I'm actually going to search here. So, Premiere Blackmagic RAW plugin. Oh, my computer's not happy. I've got so many windows and so many programs running and all that. But anyway, CYV Studio saying, yo, don't worry, just don't update. Yeah, you know, but then what if there is a new feature, like an increased ISO or something that you really want? It sucks to be stuck at a certain firmware because you don't want to upgrade beyond it. Yes, that is an option. But you know, I want to be able to update. I don't want to be stuck. But yeah, RAW Studio. Let me see. Aaron, if you are correct about this, let's bring it up. This would be a good find. RAW Studio. Here we go. Blackmagic RAW native importer. Now, I'm not going to go watch all this stuff and explore it right now, but I will put a link to this. Let me save this. I will put a link to this in the description down below if any of you guys are interested in it, and I may be interested in it as well, to see exactly what it does. Premiere Pro, yeah, there you go. And media, Windows only. Windows only. See, this is me being grumpy again. I want all this stuff to work, and I want it to work on my Mac. Let's not get into a Mac versus PC battle here. But if you are on a PC and you guys really want to work with Blackmagic RAW in Adobe Premiere, it looks like this RAW Studio plugin might be for you. I don't know anything about it. I will put a link to it if you want to explore it, but go ahead and check that out. That's a good find, Aaron. I really appreciate you sharing that, and I'm sure everybody else does too. Yeah, it just says, it also says Windows only. Yeah, Windows only, darn. So it looks like just a lot of waiting that we're gonna do, guys. You know, it's a lot of waiting for updates to come. It's a lot of waiting to see if, you know, the importer thing comes to Mac and whatnot. So a lot of stuff. Let me take a peek back here in the chat. Tim is saying, if they strip CinemaDNG from Ursa, they will give us a discount to upgrade to G2, like Big Ursa to Mini. Yeah, Tim, I am hoping that. I have asked them. I have asked my rep about an upgrade or discount or something, but at the current time, the answer is they're not planning it. But you're right. I think it would almost be a necessity if they did strip CinemaDNG from the 4.6Ks, leaving them with absolutely no RAW capabilities. I would think that they'd have to give us something to help us out to get us up to that G2. I would love to see that. But as of right now, they're saying that there's no plan for it. I will be asking them again at NAB, and like I said, I think you're going to come with me, and we're going to go talk to them and check out this new G2 when we're in NAB. Let's see here. Tim saying, of course it's Windows because Mac has ProRes RAW and Blackmagic RAW is the competition. I'm not even going to get into that with ProRes RAW. Yeah. Yeah, you know, ProRes RAW is another format out there, but it's Apple's, and Apple likes to keep Apple. And so they've licensed it to Atomos to be able to record ProRes RAW. But yeah, ProRes RAW only works in Final Cut, and I don't see it ever working in anything else, especially even if they did make it available to work in other software. I think they'd put a hefty license fee on it, which is why I really liked the announcement of that free SDK for Blackmagic RAW, because I think that is an awesome move to allow it to be implemented by anyone who wants to implement it in their software. No license fees, no nothing. We just got to wait and see if it happens. Trevor says, if they are forced to strip CinemaDNG from the 4.6K, I'm pretty sure you'd either get Blackmagic RAW and an upgrade patch to the G1 or G2. My guess would be the G1. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they would do. So I was wondering about Blackmagic RAW in the 4.6K. I was wondering if there were actual hardware limitations in it that wouldn't allow it. In theory, the hardware is pretty much identical inside to the Ursa Mini Pro G1, with the exception of the G1 has Bluetooth in it. That's the only thing I can really tell. So I thought that, you know, hardware-wise and processing-wise, it should just be a firmware thing to be able to do it. But they never did it, and it's making me wonder if the camera's even capable of it. So it might not be they're just holding off on it. It might be that maybe the hardware actually isn't capable of it. I don't know, which would be a shame. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if they, you know, if it is possible, if they would put Blackmagic RAW into my camera, or if they would offer an upgrade path to the G1 or the G2. Now, you say that you guess it would be the G1, but Blackmagic really, when they release a new camera, they put their full force behind that, and they almost just like disregard their previous models. So I would think that they'd be trying to get everyone on the G2. I would hope that the upgrade path would be to the G2. But again, this is all speculation. We don't know. You know, this is so early. This was announced this week. So nothing is set in stone. I'm just sort of looking into my internet crystal ball here and trying to predict what could possibly happen as we go forward. All right, we are getting down to the end here, guys. We are at about an hour. This has been an awesome show. We've had great chat. We've had new cameras. We've had company controversies and legal patent issues. Oh, the drama in this show has been amazing. And I appreciate you guys all hanging out here. So we're going to chat for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to wrap it up. So if you have any questions about anything else for me, even if it's not related to this, go ahead and pop that in there, guys. We're going to hang out for a little bit here towards the end here. We've got a few minutes left. Let's see here. They may export out CinemaDNG via some external recorder like Atomos. So here's an interesting thing with Atomos. There's one main camera company that Atomos doesn't work with. It's Blackmagic. So Atomos has presets and coding and everything in it for Canon, for Sony, for Panasonic, for Arri, for, why did I say that for you? Arri. But the one that they don't have anything for is Blackmagic. And I have a feeling that's because Blackmagic has sort of tried to keep it in their own family. You know, they have their Video Assist, which is an external recorder. And so that's, yeah, they don't openly share their scripts and stuff with Atomos. So I doubt that we would see an Atomos with a Blackmagic recording preset in it to do that CinemaDNG. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just don't think it's probable based on the way the two companies have sort of steered clear of each other. The politics in the camera world, man, craziness. But yeah. Let's see here. CYV Studios, in 2 years, I just used CinemaDNG twice. I hate it. It's so hard to grade. Yeah, like I said, I don't even use it that much. I'm just being a butthead, really. I'm complaining that they're going to take away something that I don't even use. But I want to have the ability to use it. I want to be able to say, this is a RAW capable camera. And it won't be. It won't be if that gets stripped away and doesn't get replaced with anything else. So that's rough. My hope is that Blackmagic releases a camera between the Pocket 4K and the Ursa Mini that has an extra stop in the highlights. That'd be interesting. You know, it kind of makes me wonder. They released this stuff, like I said, Blackmagic is exactly like Blackmagic, NAB is exactly a month away, and they released all this stuff already. Are they just trying to drum up the buzz and all that stuff, or are they gonna have new stuff at NAB as well? Who knows? I mean, I don't think so. They don't usually release that many SKUs, you know, products in a given year. So I think this might be it, and then NAB is just going to be a time to go and experience the products and explore them a little bit more. But yeah, it's really interesting that they did this a month ahead of time. I don't know. But let's see here. I would say G1 because it would reduce their loss and also allow them to shed inventory of the G1. Okay, you're talking about a potential upgrade path and why they would probably go with the G1 as opposed to the G2 to jump us up. Blackmagic Tim says yes, and they would let us keep our old camera, so don't upgrade to the stripped version. Yeah, I mean, there is always that option to not upgrade. And of course, this, like I said, I'm going to put this out there again. This hasn't happened yet. It just seems like the next logical step for them. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't been said we're taking it from the 4.6K. I'm just saying that if it does happen, the villagers might get their pitchforks a little bit. But just saying. Let's see here. Talking about some dynamic range. CYB Studio saying, where can I get a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K? That is the question that everyone is asking. Those things are back ordered like crazy. So I don't know. Sometimes you can have luck with like smaller sellers, and they'll get a small shipment in and you can get on a list and they can sell you one, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. Because if you're getting in line and ordering today on like Adorama or B&H, you're getting at the end of a potentially really long list. So it could be a little bit. I know they're cranking them out as fast as they can, but they've had production slowdowns and stuff, and so they're still trying to deliver all these things. I don't know if they've finished their original pre-order deliveries even. I don't know. But yeah, talking about the Pocket 4K is great. I did have a lot of fun shooting with it. I'm looking forward to grading that footage. I haven't had a chance yet, but I'm really looking forward to grading it. I shot that and my Ursa Mini 4.6K together, so I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can get the same kind of look out of them, hoping that I can. My buddy Tim gave me some nice pointers while I was shooting with it to try and get them to match up. DNG is good for CGI. Yeah, that's another workflow. I did see that. I do want to mention that, Andreas. That's a great point. People who do CGI visual effects stuff like CinemaDNG as a format. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of stills, but it's a whole bunch of stills with tons of data and tons of information in them. And that's really helpful for people who are doing visual effects and CGI. And so that workflow on these cameras is going to be gone. That's rough. So yeah, nothing can last forever, I guess. Adapt and evolve. But yeah, the CGI world and people who are operating with Blackmagic cameras, particularly the Pros, G1 and potentially the G2, you're gonna have to change your workflow because that codec doesn't exist for you anymore. That has happened. That has been stripped from those cameras. So that is a thing. Talking about potentially announcing something else at NAB. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Blackmagic just does their own thing, man. I like them. A month before the show, and they're like, here's our cards. It's kind of awesome. And we're getting to right about the hour here, so I'm going to answer these last two things, and we'll close it out. So Trevor's saying, despite it all, Blackmagic should be lauded for what they're doing for filmmakers. For the features you get in Pocket 4K, that would easily be 3 to 3.5K camera from anyone else. Yeah, that is 100% true. I felt kind of bad doing this show because I do have these concerns and stuff. But when it really comes down to it, you're absolutely right. The feature sets that they're delivering to us at the price point and the quality is just amazing. Blackmagic is killing it. I really think they're changing the landscape of the cinema camera market, which is awesome. They're putting out high quality products at this price, and others have to keep pace. And so I think they've been responsible for us seeing more sub $10,000 cameras because they've created this market where we can get quality and affordability, and it's a space that other companies want to move into as well, so that's not just dominated, and so we all win. So whether you're buying Blackmagic cameras or you're buying from another company that's releasing cinema cameras in the $5,000, $6,000 range, we do kind of have Blackmagic to thank for the ability to do that. I think even if you're buying like a Canon C200, I think there's a nod to Blackmagic kind of forcing Canon's hand to move into that space. Just my thoughts, but yeah, they are doing some really amazing stuff. I do love them. I love that camera. I took a leap of faith on it. I pre-ordered it. I'd never owned or shot on any Blackmagic anything, and I've been really happy with it. And now I'm just being nitpicky and complainy and a grumpy old man about it because someone else is gonna get the new shiny and I just haven't bought it yet. Which of course I have the option to buy it, so I'm just being a pain, That's all I'm doing. New Legend Pictures. If you saw, I don't know if you saw my comment because I wasn't paying attention because a music video I shot with a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K just got released, but I mentioned that Autochrome's site says their software is coming for Mac soon. Okay, so that plugin we're saying is coming for Mac soon. So I will keep an eye on that. I will put the, let me make sure I still have it copied. I will put the link to that in the description as soon as we end this show, which is going to be in just a second here, guys, because we have gone the full hour and I need to get to some other stuff around the house this fine Saturday afternoon. So thank you guys so much for hanging out in here. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you got a little bit of information here, and potentially we got a cool Blackmagic RAW plugin here for Premiere too. So thank you, Aaron, very much for that, guys. If this was your first time here, I really appreciate you coming in and hanging out. Make sure you hang out a lot more by clicking that subscription button. Subscribe down there. Click the bell so you'll get notified whenever we go live and whenever I have other videos coming out. We try and go live every Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I've been traveling so much lately at the beginning of this year, so we have been a little scattered, but I'm looking at my calendar, and it looks like we've got a good series of Saturdays coming up where I'm going to be around and we're going to be able to do these shows. So I look forward to hanging out with you guys. So stay tuned. Follow me on social media, all sorts of stuff so that we can continue this conversation as all this stuff develops. And in a month, we're going to be at NAB. So I'm going to have a lot of stuff after that to talk about. So I'm really excited about it. This is the cool time of the year when awesome stuff is coming out and we all get excited and credit card companies are sitting there waiting for us to spend all our money. I know it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to get out of here. You guys take care. And like I said, I hope to see you guys next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. All right, guys, take care of yourselves, and I will see you later.